Yesterday's prophecies, today's headlines. This is the Hal Lindsey Report. And now, Hal Lindsey.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hal Lindsey Report. In Matthew 24:12, Jesus prophesied that in the time leading up to his return, lawlessness will abound. Humanity is sick with sin. Sin makes law necessary. Law is the stability needed for man to build civilization. 1 Timothy 1 says, "We know that the law is good if one uses it lawfully, realizing the fact that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for those who are lawless and rebellious, for the ungodly and sinners, for the unholy and profane." Romans chapter 1 verse 32 describes the lawlessness of a civilization on its last legs. It says, "Although they know the ordinances of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who practice them." Where does it all lead? To the Antichrist. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 call him the lawless one. Lawlessness can refer to breaking the laws of God. It can also refer to breaking human law. It can even mean holding law itself in low regard. I thought about these things when I heard the proposals of Rachel Rollins. She's the Democrat Party nominee for district attorney in Boston. On her website, she lists 15 criminal offenses that she will decline to prosecute if she is elected. Rollins told Tucker Carlson, "We are spending too much time on petty crimes that are clogging up our system and costing us more money." Boston and the surrounding areas is one of the most affluent regions in the United States. But Ms. Rollins says they can no longer afford to prosecute all crimes. Here are some of the petty crimes. She says they don't have the time or money to prosecute. Theft of personal property under $250, disorderly conduct, trespassing, receiving stolen property, breaking and entering property that is vacant, or breaking and entering a property for the purpose of seeking refuge from the cold, wanton or malicious destruction of property, threats except for domestic violence, drug possession with the intent to distribute, resisting arrest. Keep in mind that these are crimes she will not prosecute. Imagine what it will be like for police officers if the district attorney refuses to charge those who resist arrest. Criminals can resist the police at will. That will make it open season on cops. Boston has been hit hard by the drug crisis. Yet Rollins says she will refuse to prosecute those who possess illegal drugs. More importantly, she will not charge those who possess drugs with the intent to distribute. That means she will be giving drug dealers a free pass. Perhaps she is so rich that having $250 worth of her stuff stolen won't make a difference. But to people with less income, it can be devastating. And talk about lawlessness. Imagine vandals knowing it's okay to break into empty houses if they just tell the police they are cold. Imagine a society where there are no consequences for malicious destruction of property. Think of the joy among criminals who know that fencing stolen property will not be punished. In Rachel Rollins' Boston, people will know that they can shoplift and get away with it. That means massive new levels of shoplifting. Many smaller shopkeepers will simply go out of business. Everything I just described is a manifestation of the last days lawlessness that Jesus warned about. There's another word for what I'm describing: chaos. When law and order break down, people grow fearful. Lawlessness leads to fear. Fear leads to a desire for security. A desire for security eventually leads to the fascist government of the Antichrist. Ms. Rollins is not a fringe candidate. She won the Democratic Party primary. That means she has an excellent chance of winning the election, especially in liberal Boston. It's scary to realize that she would be that county's chief law enforcement officer. But her attitude toward the law and lawlessness is not so surprising. It simply reflects the teachings of our universities. We are suddenly soft on crime because so many people have been taught the right and wrong are relative. And that means there is no wrong. A few weeks ago, I told the sad story of the young couple who died at the hands of ISIS terrorists. They were bicycling through a small Muslim country in Central Asia. Not long before his death, the young man wrote, "Evil is a make-believe concept." Many reject Jesus Christ because they don't believe evil is real. If there is no evil, there is no such thing as sin. If there is no sin, there is no punishment for that sin. If there is no eternal punishment for sin, then who needs God's grace to escape that punishment? Satan's goal is to convince the world that there is no creator, so there is no absolute right and wrong. Once the world believes that, then lawlessness will rule the day. Folks, we are dangerously close to that time right now.
When you support the Hal Lindsey Report with your tax-deductible gift, you're joining me as a watchman on the wall. I've told you many times that I believe God raised up the Hal Lindsey Report to be a voice of warning to the church, the nation, and the world. I've also told you that I can't do this job alone. I need your help. I need your prayer support and your financial support. And praise God, I've received both in generous supply in the past. But we can't stop now. Please stand beside me on the wall as we proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ and warn the world that He's coming soon.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Hal Lindsey Media Ministries, P.O. Box 470-470, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74147. You can also support this ministry online. Visit hallindsey.com or call 1-888-RAPTURE.
I've told you before that I think the mark of the beast from Revelation 13 might be a computer chip. It will be implanted beneath the skin of the right hand or forehead. The chip could contain a numeric prefix issued by the Antichrist government. The presence of that number would confirm the chip recipient's acceptance status with the government. The scripture says, "And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provides that no one should be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name." Sweden is taking a giant step in that direction. Business Insider reports thousands of Swedes are having a microchip implanted into their bodies so that they don't need to carry key cards, IDs, and even train tickets. About 3,000 people in Sweden have inserted a microchip, which is as teeny as a grain of rice, under their skin over the past 3 years. At a small company in Wisconsin, dozens of employees volunteered to receive chip implants. They used them to buy snacks, use the photocopier, and log into computers. In the future, an implanted chip could replace the keys to a person's car, house, and office. It could serve as a driver's license, social security card, and passport. If an accident leaves a victim unconscious, first responders would have instant access to the person's entire medical record simply by scanning the chip. They could also monitor what's going on inside the victim's body, like blood oxygen levels, heart rate, glucose levels, and temperature. We already have the technology to put those sensors on a chip. Soon, a chip's capabilities may include sensors for blood pressure, EKG, and screening for certain types of cancer. And the chip is convenient. With a microchip, there would be no need to carry all those credit cards. That data will be embedded in the chip. Sweden's national railway line now scans passengers' hands to collect their fare. In the near future, customers may walk into a store, pick up the things they need, and walk out. Checkout lines may soon be a thing of the past. Embedded chips could also make things easier for law enforcement. Requiring a chip to board public transportation will help the police track and catch fugitives. It may help them prevent terrorist attacks on subways or airlines. In the future, they may be able to see a driver's blood alcohol level before they pull him over, or they may not have to pull him over. If the chip in his hand tells the computer in his car that he's had too much to drink, the car computer will not allow the car to start. Hannes Schwerblud is a member of the digital biology faculty of Singularity University. He says the human body will soon be at the center of what is called the Internet of Things. He said, the connected body is already a phenomenon, and this implant is just a part of it. We're updating our bodies with technology on a large scale already with wearables. But all the wearables we wear today will be implantable in 5 to 10 years. Who wants to carry a clumsy smartphone or smartwatch when you can have it in your fingernail? I think that is the direction where it is heading. By the time the mark of the beast is imposed on the public, people will be accustomed to such things. We are already willing to trade our privacy for convenience. It will all seem so logical and responsible. Mark of the beast technology will offer the promise of convenience, security, and health. It will also provide the ability to buy and sell, just as the Bible warns. What will people be willing to trade for that? Their souls. On August 28th, a red heifer was born in Israel. The prophetic significance of this could be huge. Numbers chapter 19 gives specific instructions to the priests on the slaughter and burning of the red heifer. The ashes were mixed with water. It was then used to purify anyone who had touched a dead human body. Under the law, such people were considered unclean. They were not allowed to come to the tabernacle, or later the temple, until they performed the purification ceremony. According to Jewish tradition, there have been only 9 red heifers used in this ceremony. That makes sense because ashes keep indefinitely. Only a teeny portion of the ashes were used during the purification process. Breaking Israel News reports, according to Jewish tradition, there will only be 10 red heifers in human history, with the 10th heifer ushering in the Messianic era. London's Mirror newspaper breathlessly reported the birth of the latest red heifer just 2 weeks ago. A Bible prophecy has been realized as the first red heifer in 2,000 years was born in Israel. But we shouldn't be too hasty. There is no guarantee that the heifer will remain completely red or that it will not be injured or develop a blemish. But this latest red heifer is being nurtured as part of the Temple Institute Raise a Red Heifer program. That means it will receive perfect care. Rabbi Chaim Richman wrote about it on the Institute website. We cannot help but wonder and pray, if there are now red heifers, is ours the era that will need them? We know from the prophecies of Jesus that a third temple will be built. Thousands of Jews are working toward that goal today. Temple Institute personnel are using DNA to identify young men from the priestly line of Aaron. Many of those young men are already training to become Levitical priests. The Institute is creating ceremonial furniture and utensils. They're making plans to erect the third temple with unprecedented speed, and they are using the modern techniques of animal husbandry to produce a suitable red heifer. In the New Testament, God does not require the slaughter of animals, but religious Jews who have not accepted Jesus as their Messiah still believe they need a red heifer as part of the temple system. That's why they believe that when a red heifer is needed, one will appear. Folks, if you haven't noticed before, we live in amazing times. What a privilege it is to be alive in these days and see the ancient prophecies being fulfilled before our eyes. That means the return of Jesus to snatch away his church is close. It could happen at any time.
Hal Lindsey is pleased to present his newest audiobook, Vanished into Thin Air, read in its entirety by Joel Weldon.
The moment Paul uses the word mystery, it signals that he is going to reveal a new truth not known before.
In this book, Hal Lindsey answers the questions most often asked. What is the rapture? When will it take place? Who will go? He explains in clear, easy-to-understand terms the answers to these and many other doctrinal issues surrounding the rapture of the church. Vanished into Thin Air is now available as an audio download for $24.99. You can purchase your audiobook of Vanished into Thin Air by visiting the website store at hallindsey.com.
I spent several years in the 60s and the early 70s ministering on college campuses. I experienced firsthand the results of many professors' teachings. Even then, it was anti-God. It included a humanistic form of Marxism that urged a violent overthrow of this society. I watched with grim fascination when student activists put into action the philosophies they had been taught. They rioted, blew up buildings, and burned down banks. The same professors who had fed these ideas to their students began expressing concern, and the students rightly called them hypocrites. The educational system of the era injected the destructive philosophies of men like Karl Marx into our society. When the Soviet Union collapsed, most Americans thought we were done with Marx, but on campus, his ideas never went out of fashion. They continue to shape new generations of young leaders. More than any other element of our society, schools are most guilty of spreading atheism, communism, and relativism. For decades, Americans have been saying that education holds the answer. If that were really true, things would be bleak indeed. But there is a real hope, solid, strengthening, and certain. I'm talking about the hope found in the Bible. Some of you have come to a point where you refuse to even watch the news. It seems to be nothing more than a crescendo of despair. I know how you feel, but here's something that will help. The world's present condition fits precisely the conditions prophesied in the Bible. That means that the things that tempt you to despair should also bring you hope. You see, the God who accurately told us that these bad things would happen in the world also told us that we have a fantastic future. The Bible alerts us to the events and trends that will precede the return of Jesus. The long-awaited Messiah will soon come back and bring in his new world order. It will not be devised by politicians or managed by men. Despair and violence will end. But before these wonderful things happen, there will be tough times. One of the predictions for the age preceding the second coming of Christ is the disintegration of society. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, we see the impact of man's choice to push God and his word out of his life and memory. In the last days, there will be very difficult times for people who love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they will reject the power that could make them godly. Stay away from people like that. What happens when a society rejects God? The choice is to accept the truth or suffer the consequences. But this time, it's reality, not a game show. Earlier, I quoted Romans 1:32. When we look at the verses leading up to that one, we begin to see the consequences of society rejecting God. Just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. Those are rough consequences. Thank God for the light at the end of the tunnel. God has a plan to right all wrong and deliver everyone who trusts in him. You can be a part of his plan. The choice is up to you. Things may be grim now, but they won't stay that way. Long ago, the psalmist said, "Weeping may last for the night, but a shout of joy comes in the morning." The person who knows Jesus Christ does not need to stick his head in the sand. We can be realistic and still shout for joy, and we can be ready for whatever happens. Peter wrote, "Think clearly and exercise self-control. Look forward to the gracious salvation that will come to you when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world." Live as God's obedient children. If you don't have that wonderful hope for the future, you can receive it right now. By accepting the free gift of pardon that Jesus died to purchase for every person, you can be accepted by God into his eternal family. You can then look forward to an eternity of happiness in heaven after this life is over. And it's so simple to do. In your own heart and with your mouth, just tell God in your own way that you understand that you have sinned and can never make it to heaven on your own. Ask him to forgive you of your sin and make you clean. Believe in your heart that Jesus truly is the Son of God and that he will do everything he has promised. Then simply accept the free gift of pardon that God has promised to everyone who believes and asks. If you did that, then you have just joined God's forever family, and you are now a child of the living God. Welcome home. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. God willing, I'll see you next week.
You've been watching the Hal Lindsey Report. To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Hal Lindsey Media Ministries, P.O. Box 470-470, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74147. You can also support this ministry online. Visit hallindsey.com or call 1-888-RAPTURE.